Nothing gives you that warm, fuzzy feeling as going shopping than finding a bag of groceries that you've left on the floor in the garage. And so you go to take out your groceries that you left on the floor, and then finding that some of your groceries were found first by a mouse. And you kind of feel kind of violated that you got mice in your garage or mice in your house. And not only did they get into your food, but there's a good possibility that they're going to get into your food storage. And you kind of have that same feeling like when you move your fridge out of the way and you look behind your fridge and there's a whole bunch of mouse droppings. It just makes you feel violated. Well, the best way you can get rid of mice in your house is to make sure that the mice don't get in your house in the first place. And if you have a freeze dryer, if you're like me, you've invested a lot of money in preparing your food and putting your food up, and finding your food destroyed or gotten into is not a good, it's bad. Now, there's a lot of people out there probably saying, I told you so, because those individuals have put their freeze-dried food into mason jars. Now, I still use mason jars, but I don't use them for freeze drying. I use them for, I guess you could call it wet pack. So I still use a sizable amount of mason jars for putting up food. These are peaches right here, but I don't really use mason jars for freeze drying. I use Mylar bags. If you use jars, it's kind of hard for a mouse to go through glass. So I'm hardcore with Mylar bags. And so and a lot of people out there do use Mylar bags, and so this video is dedicated for the removal of mice from a house. And the number one thing to do to get rid of mice from a house is not to let the mice in the house. And so that's what we're going to be talking about. And we're going to be making bait boxes. The bait boxes we're going to make have some conditions to them. They can't be used around children under 6, and they can't be used around dogs that might be able to tear them open and eat the contents. So if we're going to be using these around like our freeze-dried food, they have to be up high on the shelf or behind the boxes of food or behind things where kids and dogs can't get to them. So safety first. The way I make my bait boxes are out of either some old Tupperware type containers. The ones I really like are made out of these like rectangular square ice cream containers. So these are actually make the best bait boxes because these are the ones I put outside. The best way to get rid of mice out of a house is to get rid of mice before they enter the house. And so there's a couple of designs that can be used to keep mice from entering your house in the first place. Now, the problem I have with my house is I'm surrounded by fields, and so every winter the mice migrate in from the fields into my house, and so so the best way is to catch them and eliminate them before they get into the house. So we're going to go ahead and start with these old sour cream containers, or cottage cheese containers can also work indoors. So I'm going to get a marking pen, and I'm just going to make some little circles where I'm going to make the holes for the mice to enter. So we're just going to make a couple of circles about the size of where a mouse can enter the containers here. I'm going to make one on each side. I found, or 2 to 3 openings on all of these. Now, with these ones out here, I'm going to make, this is going to come right up against the foundation wall. So I want to have a hole near the foundation wall. I don't want to have a hole way out here. So just like so. The next thing I have is I have a pair of vice grips with a piece of hanger wire that are locked into the jaws of the vice grips. This is a piece of wire we're going to heat up nice and red hot. And you might want to turn on your kitchen fan or so. It doesn't make too much smoke and it doesn't make too much of a smell, but this is how we're going to make our holes in our containers. You could probably just cut them out by themselves, but the nice thing about this, when this makes a hole in the plastic, it kind of reinforces the hole at the same time and then strengthens the hole. So we're just going to go ahead and turn on my stove here. And if you have an electric stove, you're going to have to find another way of doing this. So I'm just going to place my hanger right in the flame there and let it get nice and hot. Okay, so that's nice and warm, cherry red. Go ahead and take our box here. We're going to go ahead and pierce this plastic. And we're just going to let it follow the circle that we made, nice and slow. Sometimes you might have to move it back and forth in kind of a seesaw motion, depending on the thickness of your plastic. Until you come full circle. Just like that. So that's a nice round hole, and that's big enough for a mouse to climb into. So we're going to go around and do the other holes just like this one here. And that's just the plastic burning off my piece of hanger wire. Just keep your fingers out of the way. We don't want to burn anyone. Just like so. So we have a hole here, have a hole there. The bait traps are going to go outside. These are the ones I'm going to take outside. Next thing you want to do is you want to put a couple holes down at the bottom just in case moisture or water gets inside these. You want to have a way for the water to drain out. So I got my trusty needle here, or my hanger, so I'm just going to put a couple holes in the bottom of here that will allow these to drain if the sprinklers or the rain happens to fill some of these with water. These which are going to be in my garage or my basement, they really don't need any holes. These are just going to be fed with the bait, but these, since these are going to be outside with the wind and such, I want to make sure that these aren't going to be carried away with the wind. There's a couple of things you can do to keep these from being carried away. One method is you can go around and collect a whole bunch of small little stones and fill the bottom with a bunch of stones. That way, when you put the bait inside of here, the bait will rest upon the stones, and if water happens to come through the holes, well, the water will just go down underneath the stones, down into the weep holes, and leave the bait box, and the bait will be left nice and dry. You won't have to worry about anything. Or you can use pea gravel. Now I have a whole bunch of pea gravel, and the same thing can be done with pea gravel. You can put pea gravel down the bottom, spread it around, and you can put the bait on top of the pea gravel. This will weigh down the bait box quite a bit and keep it in place. It'll keep the bait nice and dry, and it won't go anywhere. And this is how I prefer doing my bait boxes, because of all the pea gravel I have. So with that being said, now we can put our bait inside. So safety first, I'm going to put on some gloves here. Now if you've been to a home improvement store or a farm store, you may have seen this type of bait right here. These are these little green balls right here. Kind of looks like green Captain Crunch balls, Crunch Berry things. This is the bait I prefer. And this bait is actually somewhat water resistant, but I'd rather not just put this outside where other birds or something else can get to it. So I'm going to take this, and I'm just going to put a whole bunch of these down in my bait box and fill it up. That's why I like to have these large containers, because I can stoke this full for the entire season. So there's going to be a lot of bait to go around for all the critters, all the mice who want to end up trying to enter my house. Now, that being said, we can go ahead and put the lid on this. Now, depending on what side of the house you're going to put this I'm going to put this right up against my foundation wall. If this is going to be put on the south, east, or west, you might want to paint this with a white paint, because the UV rays from the sun over time is going to bake this plastic, and the plastic is going to become brittle, and after a year or so it might just kind of fall apart. So a good painting of paint, spray paint or a latex paint, will make this a little bit more resistant to the UV radiation and will last a lot longer. Now the bait boxes are going to go down in my basement or in my garage. I can just go ahead and put the bait in here. Like so. And if the mice come into the house or in the basement or my garage, they can go into this hole here and have a little feast, their last feast, kind of Last Supper thing, and they can take the bait, eat the bait, and they can come and go as they please. And I can check these once a month or so and refill them as needed. So with all that said, I'm going to go outside. I'm going to show you where I can put this large bait box. But first I'm going to paint this, and then I'm going to show you another idea for using bait outside around your foundation walls. The preferred location for the first bait box is right here in this corner of the foundation wall. This fits right in there nice and tight, and so when the mice basically follow the foundation wall, they'll find the hole right here. Now I did paint this white to keep the ultraviolet radiation, the sunlight, from degrading the plastic. And I did write on here, poison, do not touch. I have like the little skull bones on top of here, and I also have the name of the poison written on here also, just so everyone knows what's inside. So this is a nice location for this particular type of bait box. Now I have another type of bait, well, it's not a bait box, but a dispenser right behind me, right here. This is a little bit more kid and pet friendly, so to speak, but it doesn't hold as much poison as a bait box. And what this is actually anchored into the ground. And let me see if I can pull this out. But what this is a piece of 2-inch PVC pipe, and I have a piece of rebar going through it with a washer welded onto the top. And so basically mice can come in through here and get to the bait that's kept inside. Every time I mow the lawn, I'll come and I'll check this piece of tubing and I'll put more bait that's inside. And the reason this is a little bit better with kids and animals, because this is harder to move out of the way because it's well anchored into the ground, and the dog is not going to be able to paw at this to get to the bait inside. So this is a little bit more tolerant for dogs and for children. And I have several of these around the foundation of my house. The garage, under the table saw, I have one of these boxes right here, and it is clean empty. So all the poison's out of that. So I've had a lot of visitors in my garage, so I'm going to have to go get a refill for that one. Put that back underneath there. Now this is my bag of chicken food, and down here at the bottom down here is another bait trap, and I have there's only 3 left in here. So I've had visitors there too. They used to get into my chicken food until I put it in a plastic container. So I'll have to fill that one up. Take care of that one. So I'm down in my dungeon, which is my basement. This is some of my freeze-dried inventory, which I keep in totes. And we're going to put some bait right down here by that particular tote. So this looks like this is tote number 66. It has 23 1-gallon Mylar bags. Let's see, this was done in September of 2023. Looks like we have raspberries, we got turkey meat, we got cottage cheese, tomato powder, veggie stir fry, green beans, ultimate scrambled eggs, raw eggs, mozzarella, peas, and all sorts of Kahlua pig. So we're going to take one of these little trap things, and I'm just going to set it right here by this, and I'll come back. I'll set my timer on my calendar to come and check this and see if any of the food is gone. If the food is still here, well, that would be good news for me, and because that would mean I don't have any mice in my basement, and that would be good for me, and I wouldn't have to worry about it. I like using these totes because I really doubt a mouse could gnaw through this, and I don't know why they would want to, because they'd have to get a scent, but these totes are pretty durable. That is one thing that people who can in mason jars, that is one thing that they don't have to worry about. When they can in jars, they don't have to worry about mice problems like people who put their food in the Mylar bags, but I still like Mylar. I have one more of these, and I'm going to put this down at the other end, and then we'll just see how things go. So the best way to keep mice out of your house is to block access to your house. Keep doors shut, caulk cracks and gaps in your foundation, keep shutters on your vents like your dryer vents, and keep food supplies secure. And just, do your best to keep the mice from entering your house in the first place. So I hope you found this video helpful, and I'll make some more videos on subjects such as this. But I appreciate your time, and as always, go forth and freeze dry the world, and I'll make another video for you shortly.